I have no fear of neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel.
We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime.
Hey, a president!
Weak on crime, did you hear that? The President of the United States is calling the Vicar of Christ, a man whose entire existence is dedicated to the gospel of peace, weak on crime. We have officially, and I mean this, with every fiber of my legal being, reached the point of terminal absurdity. I am George Conway, and frankly, I am flabbergasted. Think about the sheer, unadulterated narcissism required to look at the leader of over 1 billion people and apply a domestic political attack line used against city council members in Chicago. It is not just a lack of class, it is a total and dangerous break from reality. When Father Sam Sawyer says he is stunned, he is being polite. As a Jesuit, he's trained in patience. But as a lawyer looking at the U.S. Constitution and the norms of international diplomacy, I see something far more sinister than just a bad tweet. We are watching the degradation of the presidency into a cult of personality, where even the Pope is a rival to be crushed. Let's start with the legal and diplomatic fallout. The Vatican is not just a church, it is a sovereign state. When the President of the U.S. launches a vulgar, blunt attack on the Holy See, he isn't just telling it like it is, he is actively sabotaging American interests. The Pope is a key global mediator. In a conflict with Iran, the Vatican is often the only channel for de-escalation. By labeling the Pope as weak, the President is signaling to our allies and our enemies that the U.S. no longer respects any moral authority but its own. This is a threat to global security because it removes the guardrails. If we cannot have a just solution, as Pope Leo calls for, because our President is busy picking a fight on social media, then the path to war becomes a straight line. And let's talk about the hypocrisy. This is the same GOP that for decades claimed to be the party of faith, the party of values. But now, they are cheering for a man who posts AI-generated images of himself as a messianic figure. Father Sawyer mentioned it, and we need to dwell on it. An AI American Jesus. That is not just blasphemous. It is a legalistic nightmare. It is the attempt to merge the state and the divine into one man. That is the definition of autocracy. When the President attacks the Pope for being weak on crime, he is actually projecting. Let's be honest. This is a man currently facing dozens of felony charges. This is a man who has been found by a jury of his peers to have committed sexual abuse. The projection is staggering. He calls the Pope weak on crime while he himself attacks the DOJ, the FBI, and the entire American legal system. It is the classic strongman tactic. If the law or the gospel or the truth stands in your way, you don't argue the facts, you attack the messenger. Historically, the GOP had a complex but respectful relationship with the Catholic Church. Think back to Ronald Reagan and John Paul II. They worked together to bring down the Iron Curtain. There was a shared understanding of the moral weight the Vatican carried. But today's Republican Party has abandoned that intellectual and moral foundation. They have traded the teachings of the Sermon on the Mount for the grievances of a rally in Mar-a-Lago. The fact that some Catholics are finally seeing this as a bridge too far is telling. It's about time. Because what the President is doing is trying to replace God with himself. He wants to be the source of truth. He wants to be the one who defines what is weak and what is strong. When the Pope speaks about the poor, the vulnerable, and those suffering in war, he is speaking a language that the President literally does not understand. To the President, suffering is a weakness. To the Pope, it is where Jesus is found. This clash is not just a headline. It is a fundamental struggle for the soul of our democracy. If we allow a political leader to delegitimize every institution that doesn't bow to him, whether it's the courts, the press, or even the church, then we are lost. The legal loophole here is the lack of accountability. Under our current political climate, the President feels he can violate every norm of the Logan Act or diplomatic protocol without consequence. He is betting that his base will choose him over their own faith, and for many, sadly, that bet has paid off. But we must listen to Father Sawyer. We cannot let him have the megaphone exclusively. We need to speak up for the values of peace. We need to assert that the law applies to everyone, even a man who thinks he is an AI Jesus. American democracy relies on the existence of truth outside of political power. If we lose that, we lose everything. The Pope is reminding us of higher values. The President is trying to distract us with a vulgar schoolyard insult. Don't take the bait. Look at the facts, look at the law, and look at the man who thinks he is above both. It is unbelievable, yes, but it is also a warning. A president who picks a fight with the Pope is a president who knows no boundaries, and a leader without boundaries is a leader who will eventually destroy the very country he claims to lead. We are at a crossroads, folks. We can choose the path of dialogue and multilateral relationships that the Pope suggests, or we can follow a man into a dark, narcissistic void where everyone is weak except for him. The choice should be easy. But as we see in the current GOP, nothing is easy when cult of personality meets political desperation. Stay analytical, stay illegally minded, and for heaven's sake, don't let the blasphemy become the norm. The first American Pope deserves more than a week on crime tweet from a man who doesn't understand the meaning of either word. We are watching the collapse of dignity. We must be the ones to rebuild it. Thank you for listening. Now let's get back to the work of saving this republic.